everyone, and we are back with another episode of You're Literally On. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Hannah.
Hello.
And I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like we're the two, somehow busiest people in the world who also simultaneously have nothing going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, thank you for coming in. Do you want to tell us anything about yourself, or you're just vibing?
I'm vibing. I'm pretty basic. I'm 32 and I love Dacey, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I have been joking that I feel like the reason I started this podcast is just so I can force my reality TV obsession on my friends. And so far, it's been working out for me. So, it's a win-win for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about everybody else. So, have you ever heard of a show called The Girls Next Door?
I hadn't before this. No, actually.
Really? That is really crazy to me because it was a moment when we were teenagers.
Yeah, I wasn't in a household where they allowed us to watch anything other than Christian TV. So I had to catch up on so many things as I was an adult, but reality TV was not something I ever really got into.
Okay, well, just to fill you in, and for anybody else who's uninformed or not as old as I am, The Girls Next Door was a reality TV show. It aired on the E! Network from the years 2005 to 2010. At the time, it was E!'s highest grossing show. This was before Keeping Up with the Kardashians even came out or was created, and before it really took off. The show followed Hugh Hefner and his three main girlfriends at the time, who were Kendra Wilkerson, Bridget Marquardt, and Holly Madison. Holly was Hef's main girlfriend for 7 years. And what is your familiarity and your thoughts, general feelings on Playboy? If you have any strong feelings on Playboy.
I never really did. I always just thought of it as porn. And then when I got older, I didn't realize that it was kind of softcore. It was very much, it wasn't as what's the word I'm looking for? As kind of grungy as I thought it was. I thought it was really hardcore porn growing up. But I'm familiar with the girls. I wasn't familiar with the show, but I definitely knew who the girls were, and I knew who Hugh Hefner was. Now knowing what I do know about him, I'm kind of disgusted. But back then I was good for those girls, doing what, making money and living their best life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and okay, that brings up my next point, where it's back in those years, 2005, 2010, Playboy was fucking everywhere. It was literally, you could not escape it. Even if you didn't watch the show, you definitely knew who Hugh Hefner was and who the women were. They literally were everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, as someone as a teenager in the era of Playboy, I really can't express how big this brand was. Do you remember, I don't know if you went to a tanning bed and you could get the little Playboy bunny stickers?
I was literally about to say, I didn't tan obviously because I'm brown, but I had a friend who would always wear the really low rise pants with the thong sticking out, and she always had the Playboy sticker right there in her bikini line, and it was her little signature, and I was that's fucking cute. And it was marketed even to girls that weren't, I would say probably shouldn't have been marketed to, as
absolutely.
far as clothing, crop tops and just stuff with branded with stuff on it. And I'm I never got a chance to wear anything like that or look, be interested in anything like that. But I definitely knew about it, and I definitely knew it was cool.
Yeah. Okay. So back in the day, used to love the Playboy branded stuff. I just thought it was so cool. But the only girls who really, this is going to be so anti-feminist to me, but please remember, we were all 15-year-old girls at one point in time with tons of internalized misogyny. But the only girls who were wearing the Playboy stuff were the Cookie Monster pants girls. And I just was I was I cannot be affiliated.
Can't be affiliated with that. And that's the same girls that I'm talking about that wore the low-rise jeans literally and pulled the sides of their thongs all the way up to their belly button just to show them off. And then they would be wearing a thong every day. And I'm girl, I know your pH is done. Done. Wearing a thong every day. I know your pH is wild.
Yeah, okay, so Playboy, it's not hardcore porn, but it is marketed as being like the classy version.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. For people that are unfamiliar with the brand of Playboy and what it was like to be a teenager in between those years and like how big the show was. So today's book is written by Holly Madison, Hugh Hefner's main girlfriend, and she was, I mean, I would call her a fan favorite. She was my favorite on the show. The book's full title is Down the Rabbit Hole: Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny. And here's the cover. Thoughts,
Cute.
feelings?
Yeah. I definitely know her, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's giving me, which I think it's supposed to give me, what, Alice in Wonderland vibes? Yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite book cover out of all the books that I've read so far. It's very pink, and I just think she's so cute on it. She's in like this baby blue dress. She's holding a little teacup. Yeah, and I mean, Holly Madison is beautiful, so she looks great in her photos. But I just like it. It's kind of campy. It's like very feminine. Oh, I really like her book cover.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted you to be on this episode is because we actually have something in common with Holly.
We were both Hooters girls?
Yeah, we were both Hooters girls. I usually try to be like dressed kind of festive for whatever episode I'm on, but I don't have any Playboy things and I cannot wear any of my Hooters shit. But I am wearing my Hooters socks. And I did stretch them.
Listen, I can't fit any of my Hooters stuff anymore either, but I keep it. It's like a part of me, you know?
Yeah, I think it would like actually kill my soul if I got rid of it. I just instead I'm like, I remember when I was like 18 and didn't look like this.
Exactly.
So, some main things about this book, my overall like review, I guess. I genuinely enjoyed it. Holly really is a fantastic writer. I'm unsure if she had a ghostwriter for this book, but if she did, they clearly knew her own voice. And if she wrote it herself, she knows herself when she wrote this, and it is really good. She does an incredible job of getting her point across and allowing the reader to empathize with her. My absolute favorite thing about the book that I thought was excellent branding was throughout the story, she parallels her story to Alice in Wonderland. And there's quotes from the fairy tale at the start of every chapter that correlate with the chapter's contents. And I just think that's so cute. It's really fun. It's very Holly. And the other thing I really loved about the book, as someone who is a fan of her and watched the show, the reason people really enjoyed her was that she was relatable and she was shady and witty. I guess like her persona on the show, obviously I don't know her, was that friend that's like the quiet friend, but just low-key says the funniest shit. You know, like they just like are kind of like low-key a hater and just like say the funniest stuff about people. Yeah, and those same traits are in the book. And if you liked her on the show, I highly recommend reading the book. Her shade is really funny, and I don't know, she has like this dry sense of humor, so I really liked it. And I have a clip for you if you want to watch it. Just give you a vibe of her on the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's some scandalous girls that come up to the mansion and want to do anything to get Hef's attention. Kendra's room is a mess, so it'd be easy to lose something in that black hole.
Ow! Somebody fucking take it!
I don't get jealous of other girls because I was raised in a cloning lab to be the perfect woman for Hugh M. Hefner, so other than the fact that my IQ's probably a little higher than he would like, I have nothing to worry about.
You said, I'm sorry, I can't sleep with a girl that has fierce
I didn't say that.
You did too. You did too.
But I know,
And you said, I can't deal with this.
I know, I really didn't like him.
It was the same to you as the you know what, which we just talked about.
Times have changed. That was a million years ago. Kendra really needs to get a secretary because she's really scatterbrained as far as being in the right place at the right time or being on time or remembering she has to do something. Maybe I'm a little bit jaded because I live in Beverly Hills and you see Bentleys driving down the street. So something's got to be really special to impress me. And I mean, it's a cute car, but I'm not wetting my pants over it. Due to my position in the group, I'm definitely in charge of keeping my eye on the clock and making sure we were on schedule. Kendra ain't gonna do it.
That's funny.
I'm not really jealous of the situation in the present tense because She's too old for him now, I guess. Sorry.
Thank you, darling.
In 5 years, I see myself alone with Hef. Not that I don't necessarily want other people around. I'm a people person, so having Bridget and Kendra living here is great. But do I like him having other girlfriends? No. I know that I'm his number one girl, but I think he needs to get rid of the extra girls.
Yeah, do you have any strong feelings about that?
I like her. I like her vibe. I like her energy. And you can tell she's intelligent. She's like, my IQ is probably higher than Hef would like, but and I hate that it had to be that way for the girls, but I like that she still kind of kept her footing when she was there.
Yeah. She talks about that later on in the book when the show comes out and everything, how they had these like personas. They had characters basically that they were assigned to play, and they didn't want her to show like how smart she was. I don't know. They also like told her some fucked up shit. We'll get to it, I think, in part 2, because we're going to end this one like right when the show gets developed, and then we'll finish it next time. But yeah, the general premise of the show was Holly. She was the romantic one. She's the mature one. Bridget, she was the smart one. She had like 3 degrees. I think she has like 2 or 3. She's the bubbly personality. And Anna Faris's character in The House Bunny is actually based on Bridget, like her persona from the show. Yeah. So that's like kind of her vibe. And then Kendra, she was the young, sporty one who was kind of wild. Kendra was always my least favorite. I just found her kind of annoying. I just didn't relate to her when I was like 15, I guess. So there was really always like one woman for the audiences to kind of relate to and root for. Everybody had their own favorite. And I know it's going to sound wild, but like this show was truly a hit among teen girls like me. It's kind of weird, I guess, in a way that a Playboy show would be popular among women.
But that's how they marketed a lot of that stuff. That's what I was saying. Like, they marketed a lot of it towards like younger teenage girls. And I mean, it worked, you know? I think mostly because a lot of us wanted to be them. We wanted to like live a glamorous life, move to Hollywood or Los Angeles or wherever, and, you know, have lots of money and be rich. And if we had to date a really old guy to do it, then so be it.
Oh, that's so true. I remember when the Drew Carey show was still on. Oh my God, this is so long ago. But one of my friends was like, Dacey, would you marry Drew Carey? And I was like, yeah, he's rich. So like there really was, it was kind of like women could only be a spinster or you could just marry a richer, older man. Those were really our only 2 life choices in the 90s for whatever reason.
Yep. Yeah. The patriarchy, you know.
Yeah. We're getting there. We have rights now.
Right.
So I do want to put a pin like how big this show was for women, especially teen girls. And I just want to put it on the record because it will come up later. But the reason that the show was such a massive success is because of the women and the girls that watched it and because of the women on the show, specifically Holly, Bridget, and Kendra. Like nobody really gave a fuck about Hugh Hefner. I did not care about Hugh. I was like invested in the women on the show. And I do want to put a pin in that because it will come up later. So
Gotcha.
I want to start. We're going to take a little detour with the book's introduction, which is really good. I typically read all of the introductions because usually there's some good nuggets in them. Sometimes they're kind of boring, but hers is really good. Holly talks about growing up and feeling out of place and her family being poor. She mentions that she was lacking in social skills, and as an attempt to counteract that, she would constantly try and reinvent herself and her hobbies to fit in with her group of friends, and that nothing ever really felt like her. She talks about being treated like an outsider growing up because the other kids viewed her as different. And recently, Holly has shared that she has been diagnosed with autism, and I do feel like that's important because it does like put perspective on her and her choices, and also her feeling this way growing up, because I'm pretty sure she didn't talk about her autism diagnosis until a few years after she wrote this book. She doesn't bring up the autism in this book, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting and a neat little factoid.
Wow.
She talks about being, she talks about being her extreme fascination with Marilyn Monroe. She would watch all of her movies that she could find on her TV, and she would record them on VHS, talks about her favorite being How to Marry a Millionaire, and she makes a joke about the irony of the title and her own life. She says that she didn't love it for the plot or the title. She loved the three main characters. She writes, I loved the three main characters. They were just too irresistible. Model roommates played by Lauren Bacall, the smart one, Marilyn, the romantic one, and Betty Grable, the athletic one who always said what was on her mind, which is a perfect mirror of what the show was ultimately. She talks about having this paper doll set of Marilyn Monroe and dreaming about one day wearing all the fabulous clothes Marilyn wore. The book opens with her idolizing Marilyn Monroe and wanting to follow in her footsteps a bit, in the sense that Marilyn transformed herself into an icon from nothing. And she really did have it all. She had the fame, fortune, and love. She was like so loved by not just the men in her life, but, you know, America.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us had an obsession with Marilyn. I mean, back in the early 2000s, there was this huge, like, kind of marketing of, like, Marilyn Monroe. There would be, like, these weird black and white photos of her everywhere. She'd be on T-shirts and random, like, canvas paintings and, like, art deco. And so I think that there was always really an obsession with Marilyn Monroe among any girls our age, or when we were younger, obviously.
Yeah, there was really this like era of girl bossification of Marilyn Monroe, which I definitely bought into it, you know, when I was younger. And now looking back on it, I'm like, why did we girl boss Marilyn Monroe, who had a very tragic and sad life that ended in a very tragic and sad way? And yeah, it would be like a girl bossing Judy Garland. You know, it's like she had a very sad life and was treated like a commodity and not like a human being for the majority of her life. And Marilyn Monroe was treated very much the same way. And I do like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Holly talks about being a young girl and idolizing it. And then she like falls into kind of the same, not the traps that Marilyn Monroe fell into, but she did kind of have that same experience as Marilyn, of, you know, feeling like you don't have any choices and becoming a commodity, basically. But the intro cuts. Yeah, so the intro. Oh, also, I'm just gonna give a gentle trigger warning. There is like mentions of suicide in this book and brief mentions of sexual trauma. Obviously, Holly doesn't like go in depth of it, but it does get mentioned, so I just want to put that out there. So the intro cuts to the year 2002. Holly is in a bathtub considering suicide. She talks about how the gates of the Playboy Mansion were always thought to keep people out, but she understood that they were really meant to keep the women inside. She discusses her mental state and how depressed she really was at the time. She says the thing that convinced her not to go through with it was knowing my death would be in vain convinced me not to go through with it. In truth, I didn't really want to die, but I saw no other way out, which really breaks my heart.
That's really sad. Oh my God.
Yeah, just to think that, like, just the mind space of being, this is my only way to have freedom, but also I know no one's going to care or people are going to profit off this, that I don't want profiting off of it.
That's so depressing. Oh my God. That's
I know, it really
sad.
does break my heart. She knew that if she had died at this time, it would have been used to benefit Hugh Hefner some way. And ultimately, she wanted to be able to tell her side of the story. And yeah, it just like touched a part of my soul. As someone who struggles with depression and suicidal ideation, I appreciated not only her candor and openness about the subject, but like for years, everyone thought she had this really glamorous life. And because of the show, that she was like so madly in love with Hugh Hefner and she just had this like perfect world. And all she wanted was for Hugh to marry her and settle down. And the reality was that she was a literal prisoner and she felt really alone.
Yeah, that's really sad. I mean, when looking in on it, even as someone who didn't watch the show, looking in on what I knew about Playboy and the Playboy Mansion, I always thought that the girls lived the fabulous life and they could come and go as they please and they could do whatever they want. And hearing that they weren't able, like you said, little prisoners, like that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah, and this does come up in the book, but I also remember having that idea of how they live their lives. And that's also the idea that they had going into the mansion and living there and becoming a girlfriend. Holly grew up between Oregon and Alaska. She said that she had big dreams of getting out of her small town and making a name for herself. Don't we all? She
I was
had
gonna
a
say,
funny...
don't we all?
Yeah, isn't that everybody's dream? Well, I guess maybe not if you live in like LA or Beverly Hills, but like definitely growing up in a small town in Georgia, I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
She has like a funny mention that her hometown in Oregon did see a boost in tourism because of the Twilight movies, but that there were no Edward Cullens lurking there. I guess it was shot in her hometown, but that she didn't find any Edward Cullens there. Oh my gosh, I'm just not thinking about this. Okay, I bet there were so many girls that were like, oh my God, I am Bella. And like, if you grew up in that town, I just know that you had Twilight brain rot to the extreme.
Sitting in the window watching the seasons pass as your music plays in the background, camera rotates around you.
I can literally hear like the little piano song from, I think the third or fourth one, the Twilight theme song playing as you're just like wistfully hoping.
You're gonna find your Edward.
Yeah, and then it's just like a town full of guys named Andrew who wear flannels. In 1999, she hears that Playboy is hosting the Millennium Playmate Search, and they're making a stop in Portland. She had been thinking of moving to LA already, and she decides to audition for this. The winner of the search would appear in the January 2000 issue of Playboy and receive a $250,000 cash prize. She says, while Playboy wasn't completely foreign to my home, it still felt rebellious. I knew that if I auditioned for the Millennium Playmate and happened to be chosen, my parents wouldn't be thrilled at the prospect of me posing naked, but possibly would have respected my decision. It was a reputable magazine with a storied history, so it felt edgy, but also somehow safe. Which, yeah, is like how Playboy was viewed. I mean, how it still is viewed to this day, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like if I were to have ever posed for Playboy, my mom would have that shit fucking framed. She would be like taking it to church or something. You know, like, look.
See, that's a dope ass mom. That is a dope ass mom because my mom would have like, my mom pretty much like swore up and down I was going to hell because I started working at Hooters, let alone trying to like pose for even the calendar at Hooters, let alone trying to pose for fucking Playboy. She would have disowned me. She would have disowned me.
People, okay, I will say not everybody, but like people really do treat working at Hooters. It has just as bad as being in Playboy. Not that posing in Playboy is bad.
They do.
But like, nothing is happening at Hooters. Like, I'm serving chicken wings.
No, exactly.
Absolutely
like
not.
I'm literally hot and sweaty and I want to go home. My feet hurt. Like I've gotten hit on like 15 times today. Somebody touched my butt. Like, no, it's not. It's not luxurious at all.
It's really not. It's literally just us in the break room being like, I fucking hate everybody here. I hope God smites this building. Okay, Hooters is a fun job, but it's also like not fun because, oh my God, you have to like run the bus. Every time I run a bus hub, I think about this shit because you have to have a clean uniform. But like during your shift, you have to like you have to get these like big ass bus tubs and you get wing sauce fucking everywhere. And that shit does not come out. Yeah. It's not, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's not like as glamorous as the Playboy Mansion. I promise.
I remember one time bussing tables, and this was somebody who had ordered oysters, which I'm like, why are you coming to Hooters and ordering oyster or whatever we had on the menu that was like, I'm pretty sure it was oysters. And it was like the juice from the oysters. And you know how we carry the plates and stuff. I had it like, and all of it just like dripped down my arm, like into my armpit. I'm like, oh, great. The rest of the day, I'm going to smell like fucking oysters.
That's so great. And we would have to shuck them for people, like at the table. And then your fingers would just smell like oysters all day. And you would be like hands deep in lemon slices just so you wouldn't fucking smell like oysters. Yeah, so yeah, Playboy's not that bad. And it definitely wasn't. It's definitely like the classy version of porn, I guess. Because Hustler and Penthouse were always the trashy ones. And I don't know.
I don't even know anything about those.
You don't know anything about Hustler and Penthouse?
I mean, like, I've heard of them, but, like, I've never, like, I at least have seen, like, a spread of Playboy. Like, I've never seen anything inside of Hustler or Penthouse. Never had the urge to, honestly, but
Okay, I mean, okay, so Hustler and Penthouse, I'll say they have like similar vibes. Um, they they have like spread vaginas and like buttholes in it, so it's a little bit more. And Playboy always has these very like themed photo shoots. They're very like artistic and put together, and the lighting is always perfect, and they just like look really professional. And then like Hustler and Penthouse, they are professional photos, but there's definitely no like artistry to it. It's like, yep, that's a labia, basically. like yeah, that's a butthole.
just titties and pussy. That's it.
Yeah, basically, it's just like a little bit. It's a step up, and it's not as like well rounded as Playboy is. But you know, I don't knowing what I know now about Hustler, and they were really like the only publication that allowed women to speak up about abuse from powerful men. And they did have to still pose naked. So there is still some exploitation happening, but I just felt like Playboy was the more feminist one. I don't know. I feel like that feels weird because I know there's been women in the past that would pose for Playboy, or not Playboy, but Penthouse or Hustler. And then they would tell their stories of sexual abuse that had happened to them or rape that had happened to them from like big players in Hollywood or whatever. And this was really the only publication telling their stories.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if Playboy ever had that. I know Faye Resnick posed nude in Playboy, or I think she posed nude in Playboy, and she talked about Nicole Brown Simpson, who was famously, most definitely, probably murdered by her husband or ex-husband OJ, and Faye was like her best friend. And I think she like used that. Yeah, I think she used her spread in there to talk about that situation. But yeah, Playboy just always felt empowering to me, and the photos are pornographic, but they never really felt that way. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not like jerking it. They felt like such a celebration of the female body, if that makes sense.
I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see it while you're saying that it's more of an artist like perspective, the way that they had the spreads on Playboy, and just kind of celebrating a woman's body as opposed to like, here's a vagina. Like, I know that you're just using this to jack off. Like,
yeah. It just never really felt like that. And the articles are genuinely good on Playboy. The John Mayer Playboy article is one of those articles that lives rent-free in my brain. I don't know if you've never read it. I highly recommend seeking it out. He talks about his third nipple, just like an insane amount. Like, why does anybody need to know that? It's so ridiculous. It's almost like that Robert Pattinson interview that came out like 2 years ago where he's eating the weird burnt pasta on his floor. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
During his like press tours for the Batman, he has this like insane interview, and it's very clear that he's trolling the journalist that he's talking to. He's just like being a fucking total weirdo. But like it's that vibe, except so earnest with John Mayer. Which this is a John Mayer hater account. Like, that man needs to pay for his fucking crimes. Like, I don't care. I don't care if he sang and wrote Body is a Wonderland. He needs to pay for his crimes, and he will. John Mayer, you will pay. And you and your third nipple.
Man. Terrible.
Yeah, he is. So, Holly auditions for the Millennium Playboy. Millennium Playmate. I keep wanting to say Millennium Falcon, and I'm like, that's not right. This isn't about Star Wars. So, yeah, Holly auditions. She doesn't get picked. And for those curious, the people who did get picked were the Bentley twins. And this part made me kind of angry. Holly will eventually learn that the Bentley twins were always the winner of the contest. And the whole search is just this big publicity stunt. And no one who auditioned was going to be picked anyways. So these women had to pose topless and sign releases for a contest they're never going to fucking win. Like, Playboy's just using this as like a low-key scouting event for these women.
I feel like that's like 90% of competitions, honestly. Like, I feel like they always have a winner in mind, and everybody else is just to like either get money or like publicity. Yeah.
I I guess, but I don't know. I was just like, oh, you're telling me I'm gonna try out for this thing? I never even had a chance. Like, oh, my self-esteem would be so hurt because I am just delusional enough that I'd be like, yeah, I have a fucking chance. No, I don't. You know?
I'm not that delusional. I need that type of delusion.
I tell everybody that I really do have an unshakable self-esteem, and I just feel like, oh, this might have put a chink in my armor, but if I was like, oh, I didn't win, what? I don't know. After this, Holly, she decides to transfer colleges to go to a school closer to LA. She takes out 3 credit cards to buy herself a boob job. God, remember when boob jobs were that low? You could just take out 3 credit cards at the age of 19. What is this country coming to? She says that the Playboy audition wasn't the main reason for her choice, but that it was the final straw to get the boob job. She had struggled with insecurities about her chest her whole life. And you know what? I'm going to give that a good for her. Good for her. You know? Get the titties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or be like me and get your titties taken off because...
Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah, cut them off. Which I just found out today that my insurance gets to dictate how much weight they can take out of my boobs. And I drove home from the plastic surgeon's office. Yeah, I drove home from the plastic surgeon's office today. Fucking furious. I was like, you're telling me some dudes are going to be like, she doesn't want her boobs taken off. I don't think she really wants a smaller cup size. You could take just a little off the top there.
No, I'd be pissed. What? They took like 12 pounds off of me and it was amazing. And now I just want to do it again because I've loved it so much. And no, I'd be pissed. What kind of insurance do? Well, I don't say it on here, but.
No, it's fine. Anthem. I have Anthem. And Anthem, if you don't approve me for my fucking boob reduction, I will burn your offices to the ground, one by one.
I had Anthem. When I got my first boob job, they didn't tell me how much I could get taken. Maybe it's the type that you have. I don't know. But no, I'd fucking raise hell. No.
I should probably not say that. Okay, Anthem, I won't burn your offices to the ground. I really enjoy having health insurance. I haven't had it for 30 years of my life. So Holly moves to Santa Monica where she gets but she gets a job and she starts working at the Hooters there. She's working and going to school full time and she's living a very normal, like, broke girl life. And she decides to put school on hold because she needs money. So she starts working at the old Hoots full time. She picks up a gig as a Hawaiian Tropic model. And while working at an event for Hawaiian Tropic, she meets Hugh Hefner's personal physician who invites her to a Playboy Mansion party. Which, is that like a thing? Like, if you are Hugh Hefner, can your doctor just be like, hey, you're really hot, and I'm sure this old-ass man that I see sometimes would love to have you in a bikini around his pool. Yeah. Which, okay, that is kind of weird. That is strange. I did not think it was strange when I was reading it, but now that I'm reading this, I'm like, that is kind of weird. That's like being like your dentist, being like, hey, I know a guy that would find you so attractive. You should, like, come to my barbecue this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's weird. That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Actually, okay, maybe it's not that weird because I feel like we got invited to weird shit at working at Hooters. Like, people just invite you to stuff all the time.
When you're hot, that happens, yeah.
Yeah. It is like a hot girl. It doesn't happen to us anymore. Oh, it doesn't happen to me. I don't know about it.
Girl, stop it. No, it don't happen to me anymore. I'm too old.
I want to set the scene a little bit. This is the year 2000, and for those who don't remember that time period, the Playboy Mansion was this huge secret thing that only the cream of the crop could go to. Only the prettiest women, the highest caliber of celebrities, and the richest people got to go. And there was this episode of MTV Cribs where they go to the Playboy Mansion, and I remember being like jaw on the floor, like glued to my TV, not missing this episode of MTV Cribs because the Playboy Mansion was like so secretive. And you had to have the secret password to get into the gates. Yeah, it was just like such a weird thing in our pop culture history in the early 2000s. But that really was part of the allure of the Playboy Mansion, was that it was surrounded in all this secrecy. there was a time before smartphones, and there was like never any candid photos from any of these events. There was like super strict security there. So Holly gets invited to Hef's Midsummer's Night's Dream Party, which is a really huge iconic party at the time. I remember like tabloids and stuff talking about it at the time on, I want to say like maybe this is Perez Hilton talked about it on his site when it would happen.
Oh my God. Perez Hilton.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
I was going to say, do you remember when like you had have to get your pop culture news from a gay on the internet? But that we still do that. Like I still get my pop culture news from a gay on the internet. Holly, of course, goes to this party because why wouldn't she? Like if you get invited to a Playboy Mansion party, you are going to go. If not, only for like the curiosity of it all. There she sees Hef, and he's sitting at his little designated table, flanked by his girlfriends at the time, the Bentley twins, winners of the Millennium Playmate in 1999. She says that he looked really bored, and that confused her because there's this glamorous party going on, and he's sitting beside these two beautiful women, and she goes up to him and introduces herself, and at first he doesn't hear her, so she repeats herself, and he says, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you, darling," and then turns away from her to turn to other guests. Which, like,
I always gathered that Hugh was a dick, honestly. I never gathered that he was, like, a nice guy.
I know, but his, like, public persona was that he was this harmless old man who was, like, respectable. I don't know. That was his, like...
Even if it was his persona, that's never something that I like seeing him. I was like, that man's a piece of shit. Like I could tell he was a piece of shit.
Okay, I literally never thought that until I was older and was able to be like, something smells weird here. Like something's not right. Like I don't. No one. Like first of all, nobody is this nice, and two, like. It's fucking weird. Like, he treats women a weird way, you know?
Yeah.
I also think it's, like, interesting that she notices that he looks bored. And it's like, yeah, because at this point in time, he's probably got to be, like, 50 or 60. I want to say he's, like, in his 60s at this point. And what is a 60-year-old man that has, like, other interests and all the money in the world at this point in time? Like he's not gonna be doing tequila shots, you know? I don't know. Yeah. You don't have that much in common with like a 19-year-old girl.
No, not at all. You don't have anything in common. That's like generations away. I mean, you really think he was only 50 or 60? I perpetually saw Hugh Hefner as like an 80-year-old man.
Yeah, but the reason I know that he wasn't 80 is because this has got to be like this is in 2000. And I think he died when he was 90. And he was old when the show was on. And he only died like 8 years ago. So I don't know. Yeah, he had to have been at least 20 years younger than I remember him being. That's after this party, Holly becomes a regular at the Playboy parties for about a year. She eventually gets invited to one of the Sunday pool parties, which are known to have a very selective guest list. At these parties, only 20 women get invited, and the 2 men who are invited would just like hole up in a corner and play backgammon. And it's like, yeah, because that's what 60 and 70-year-old men are into, or just like playing backgammon and smoking cigars. Honestly, that's like what 40-year-old men are into. It's like smoking cigars.
Not chilling and taking, like you said, doing belly shots and entertaining 19-year-olds.
Yeah. And Holly writes in the book, occasionally they would stride over and join the girls in a drink or a game, but they mostly kept to themselves and always focused on Hef. After all, they wanted a repeat invite, and Hef, without saying a word, made it clear that the girls were solely for his amusement. It's like, he might as well just take out his dick and pee on him at this point. It's like, he's only having these women, number one, for decoration. Like, that's so obvious. And then 2, he's like, but these are for me. They're here for me. And you're also here for me.
They're not for you. They're for me.
Yeah, he's literally my dog when guests come over to my house.
These people are here for me and nobody else. I'm the center of attention.
Yeah, exactly. And I really love this anecdote. She talks about meeting a woman at this party who had the biggest set of titties she had ever seen. And she talks about how this woman was super nice to her, but she can't recall the details of the conversation because she was mind blown at the size of the women's tits. Like her boobs were so big. And she goes on to see this woman again in an issue of Playboy, and it's Coco, Ice-T's wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love her, and I loved their TV show when they had one. And yeah, she does have really big tits. Like, she has huge boobs. And she also seems like such a cool lady.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about her, but I just do remember them having a TV show. Also remember her having really big tits.
Also, I really love that Ice-T is like very supportive of his hot wife. Like, anytime she posts like scantily like clothed photos, which is very often if you follow her on Instagram or Twitter, but he's always like, yeah, that's my wife. And I'm like, oh, yes, yes, Ice-T, that's your super hot wife. Yeah. And yeah, and then people like are always so weird to her in the comments, of course, and he's just like, it's like he's fucking Ice-T. You really trying to fuck with him? Like, this man wrote an anti-cop rap in like 1985. Like, I am not fucking with Ice-T. Also, he works on like a cop drama. He could kill you and hide the body. So
he knows exactly how.
Yeah. At this time, Hef has 7 girlfriends. The Bentley twins are long gone. And Holly starts hanging out with like the core 7 of them minus the Bentley twins. Yeah. One of the girlfriends, Vicky, welcomes her with open arms and takes Holly under her wing. The girlfriends are hyping up how awesome it would be to be Hugh Hefner's girlfriend. The most coveted spot at Playboy is the Playmate status. And at this time, Hugh Hefner's girlfriends are almost guaranteed to get a spot as a Playmate. So being in the magazine is this huge honor, but being a Playmate is elite because there's only 12 of them a year, and you get a huge cash prize and you get all this recognition. So there's definitely an incentive to be a girlfriend if you want to be a Playmate. Plus, there's a clothing allowance. They get money to buy clothes. Hugh gives them lavish gifts all the time. You know, they get to go to the hottest clubs and premieres and meet people, you know, travel, etc. So I guess like at this point in time, a lot of women are viewing being a girlfriend as a stepping stone to something more because I remember some Playmates were like getting cameos in movies or, you know, TV spots and TV shows, stuff like that. And you're also like hobnobbing with the wealthiest of the wealthy. So there's a better chance for you to like network.
Yeah, yeah.
Vicky tells Holly that none of the women actually sleep with Hugh Hefner. That it's all for show to keep up Hef's Playboy image. Katie Lohman, who is Miss April in 2001, and she's one of Hef's girlfriends, did a Howard Stern interview where she denies that any of the women slept with Hef. And Hefner promptly kicks her out of the mansion for denying that for saying that they don't sleep with him. And I mentioned that because on the show, Holly talks about what her and Hef do in the bedroom, and she says that they do normal boyfriend and girlfriend stuff, which clearly implying sex, but it is a common theme at the book that the women adamantly deny sleeping with him. So I guess like even if they weren't sleeping with him, they needed to act like they were. They needed to like pull an Easy A situation, I guess. Despite the girlfriends who Holly calls them the Sloppy 7, which I think is just a funny name. They're like doing the hard sell for the girlfriend role. She has her own priorities. She really wants to be an actress and she's focused on that. She's not really focused on being a girlfriend and moving into the Playboy mansion. She talks about wanting to be a Playmate because it is such an honor and because other famous actresses have been one, so she does see it as a stepping stone. But she really doesn't want to pursue the girlfriend thing. She's kind of like, you know, if it happens to be a Playmate, but it's not like, she's not like actively pursuing it, basically. She lands an agent and she gets a few bit parts, but she's still struggling financially. Her 2 roommates at the time decide they're moving out, and suddenly Holly finds herself like about to be homeless. She can't afford her rent on her small apartment by herself. She doesn't want to return to Oregon. She wants to be an actress, and she's like pretty dead set on that. She remembers Hugh's former girlfriend, Brandy Roderick, who went on to star in Baywatch Hawaii. And Brandy got the role because of her time with Playboy. So Holly starts to consider what life would be like living at the mansion. Vicky had once shown Holly her room, and it was really beautiful and filled with gifts from Hef. Plus, she does see this as a stepping stone to her ultimate goals. So she does kind of like start to consider it. One of the girlfriends leaves, so there's an open spot in this harem. And Vicky invites Holly to go out with them on their bi-weekly club night. Holly had confided in her about becoming homeless, and Vicky's like, oh, you should talk to Hef. And once again, we're just going to set the scene. Holly is a small town girl who is thrown into this lavish world, this like hot girl world. And she's someone who grew up poor, and that comes with its own insecurities as an adult. You have like financial insecurities, something I still struggle with, somebody that grew up not wealthy at all. Same. Yeah, like anytime I'm like late on a bill, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get evicted. And it's like, I've already paid my rent. The light people aren't going to evict me.
That is literally me. I'm like, oh my God, my credit's going to drop like 40 points. I'm never going to be able to buy a house.
So she's also new in town, and these women are being really nice to her, and they're accommodating her. And the thought of it being some sort of trap isn't a thought to her. Like, she isn't thinking these people are lying to me for some reason, because why would she think that? And also she's like, man, there's this free house that I could live in, and apparently I don't have to sleep with this man for it. I could just like live here and just like be hot and chill. And yeah, she just like doesn't think about Vicky like lying to her at all. So she becomes sold on the idea of being a girlfriend because, number one, she needs a place to live, and the mansion is beautiful. 2, she wants to be a part of this girls' club. She really likes the other women. She sees them as her friends. And 3, she views it as a short-term thing to reach her end goals. And also, she's being told she doesn't have to have sex with Hugh Hefner. So it's kind of like a win-win for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She goes out with them to the club. There's another woman there who is also auditioning to be a girlfriend. Holly talks about how neglected the mansion actually is. She says it's really nice, but that it's outdated and the carpets are stained, that it's really dusty. She talks about how Hugh Hefner loved media attention, and the reason he does these club visits is because the media sensationalizes him and his pack of girlfriends. The girlfriends like these outings because it's their way of like meeting other people, whether it be professional connections or boyfriends. And Holly does take this moment to throw a little shade at Kendra. She says, yes, most of Hugh Hefner's girlfriends had other boyfriends. In fact, during my time at the mansion, I can only say for sure that 2 of us remained faithful. My future BFF, Bridget Marquardt, and myself. Needless to say, this was all very hush-hush because Hef strictly forbade any of his girlfriends from dating other people.
So Kendra's the only one left.
Yeah. She's like, 2/3 of us were faithful. Like eyes emojis. And we're going to take a second to just say, this is the part where Holly does talk about sexual assault. So if you don't want to skip it, please skip forward a few minutes. So while on this club night that Holly is going to audition to be a girlfriend, Hugh Hefner asks Holly if she wants a Quaalude. And for people who don't know, Quaaludes are basically like Xanax on Xanax back in the day. They don't even make them anymore. I think it's like what Bill Cosby got in trouble for drugging women with, right?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was Quaaludes, but yeah, they don't make them anymore. They're just like tranquilizers. She turns it down, saying no thanks, she doesn't do drugs. Hugh responds by saying, that's good. In the 70s, we called these thigh openers. Jail. Just like fucking foul.
Straight to jail.
Thigh openers. Like, oh, that's good because you might have sex with me. Tee-hee-hee.
Yeah, see, disgusting. He's a disgusting man.
Yeah, no, that is like, who says that? Like, number one, like, who thinks it's okay to say that? Who thinks it's actually? I was gonna say, who thinks it's okay just to offer the random women drugs? But there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that think that's acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Holly's having a grand old time. Aside from the weird Quaalude situation, the girls are pumping her with drinks, and she's having so much fun. So she's drinking with them, and it's not like they're just like, oh, let's do shots together. They're like consistently handing her drinks throughout the night. And it's in the limo ride back to the mansion when one of the girlfriends mentions that they're all expected to follow Hef back to the bedroom and everyone is expected to join in. Holly at this point is very drunk and now she's confused, which is the worst state to be in, drunk and confused. Like, you got to pick a struggle, you know? The whole, yeah, you really do. The whole selling point that these girls have pitched to her is that she doesn't have to have sex with Hugh Hefner. She says that she follows the girls and Hef up the staircase to Hef's bedroom, and what happens next is a haze. One of the girlfriends, a woman named Tina, gives Holly a matching set of PJs and leads her to the bedroom. There's Hef, taking care of himself, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, and he's smoking a joint. Holly joins the other women on the bed and leans into Vicky because this is her friend, and Vicky tells her to fake the fuck. That's when Holly kind of looks around the room and notices that all the women are like pretending to have sex and make out with each other, but in reality, they're just like gossiping and talking. They're doing the thing in wrestling where they like butt heads and whisper their moves to each other and like talk. It's like that's what they're doing, except they're pretending to have sex with each other. So suddenly, Vicky calls out to Hef and says, Hef, don't you want to have sex with the new girl? And pushes Hugh Hefner towards Holly. They do the deed for a few minutes, and he moves on to the other girl who's there auditioning. And that was that. Holly says that it took her a few years to realize and process what had happened that night. The reason the group of girlfriends were so pushy with the drinks was because, like, it first of all would put her in a vulnerable situation. And two, the reason that they were like, you should come be the new girlfriend is because it would take the heat off them. Because now suddenly he has like a new thing to be invested in.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would use these women so Hef would like want to have sex with the new girls and not the girls that had already been living there at the time. The next morning, which it's just so gross. Like, I guess like I get the mindset of that is you have to protect yourself, but like protect the other women too. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'd take a bullet for the team. I would never, no.
Yeah. And especially they're like, it's honestly, it's the pretending to be her friend. Maybe it's just because I just could not do that. Like, if I do not like somebody, I do not like them. I just couldn't. This is why I can't join an MLM, because I have just like too much of a conscience. So the next morning, Holly doesn't think of the night before as creepy. She's still buying into the whole Hef's a gentleman and he's a really nice guy facade. She seeks Hef out and asks if she can move in, and Hef tells her, you can stay for a while and we'll see how it works out. And that's that. Holly moves into the mansion as a girlfriend. Like, okay, first of all, if I'm having sex with some crusty old man who, first of all, tried to drug me and then like assaulted me because I'm too drunk to consent at this point in time, and I ask you to move into your house, you better fucking say yes, not, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, just, you can stay for a little while and we'll see how, like, what? I literally just took the D. For what?
Yeah. And I think it's because, like, Hugh Hefner knows that he holds all the power. Like, and I think it's because he wants to, like, retain that power dynamic of, just because you gave me something does not mean I have to give you something in return.
Yeah. And
I also think maybe he's like buying into the thought of like, these women want to do this with me. Like, they do find me sexually attractive.
A delusional man. He's definitely a delusional man. Absolutely.
So after Holly moves in, she quickly realizes that, number one, the living in the mansion isn't glamorous. And two, the sloppy seven are in fact not her friends. The mansion has a set schedule, and the women who live there who have like very strict rules. So here is the schedule that Holly lists in the book. Mondays are manly nights. Hef and his male friends come over for dinner and they all watch a movie together. Tuesdays are family night. Hef's wife and 2 sons come over and spend time together. Wednesday and Fridays are club nights. Everyone has to be dressed up and ready to leave by 10 p.m. Thursdays are an off night. They can do whatever they want, but they have to be back by 9 p.m. Saturday is a buffet and a movie with Hefner. And Sunday is the Fun in the Sun pool party during the day and then a movie at night. And then here are the rules. There is a curfew. All girlfriends are required to be inside the mansion by 9 p.m. No fraternizing with the staff. You get a clothing allowance of $1,000 per week, and it has to be spent on clothes and appearance upkeep. You know, you can't like put any in a savings account. You have to spend every single penny on what you're saying you're going to spend it on. And if Hugh Hefner compliments a girl on her outfit, the others have to replicate it. Like they have to dress in the same style. And Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday events are mandatory. And this is giving Versailles. So King Louis's father, who was like the king of Versailles before Marie Antoinette came in, whatever, he had all these like inane rules. And the reason he did is because it like kept people from overthrowing him. Which is interesting because, you know, it's the people that overthrew him. Yeah, but like they had like weird, stupid rules at Versailles where you couldn't like get undressed by yourself. You always had to have somebody take off your shirt and then another person come in and take off your shoes. So like just like weird fucking rules. And it was to keep people from overthrowing him. And like that's what this shit is. Also, the clothing allowance of $1,000 per week is like exactly how our government's budgets are ran. They're like, yeah, the military, you get like $4 billion in, you know, budgets, but you have to spend it all on weapons. And that's why we just have so many fucking weapons because the military doesn't want to lose their budget. So Holly, who is a rule follower, and she doesn't really have any friends outside of the mansion, she's pretty good at following these. You know, she doesn't really have a life outside of here. And she thinks that these people are still her friends, kind of. Well, I guess like she knows that they're not her friends, but they're her only social system that she has. So, you know, whatever. She also really likes classic films, and she views this as something that her and Hefner have in common. She is trying really hard to earn Hef's approval because she knows that she's there on a trial basis. She turns down a few acting roles because they aren't going to pay much, and she knows that Hef will get mad if she accepts them, which, like, that sucks. So she decides to put her acting dreams on hold, and she's still working at Hooters, and Hooters lets her know that they want her to represent Santa Monica in the annual bikini contest. And we both worked at Hooters. I worked there for 4 years. How long did you work there?
2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just 2 years.
Just 2 years. That's a long time. So yeah, we have the inside scoop of like what working at Hooters is like. And like I auditioned for the calendar one year. I didn't get in. One of the girls we worked with was picked. Wasn't Whitney picked?
Yeah, I think it was what's her name? Started with a J. She was like a light-skinned black girl. She was really pretty though. Really pretty. So I got
Joanna.
I mean, it made sense. Yes, that's her name.
Yeah. Which, sorry, girlies, if you guys are listening to this for whatever reason, putting you on blast like that. And then Leanne was on the website. I don't think she made it to the calendar, but she was on the website. Getting asked to represent your area in the bikini contest, it's this huge deal at Hooters. Because number one, you're like competing against everybody else in your region or whatever. And it's just like this huge opportunity for Hooters to even ask you to do that. And if you get to be one of those women that gets picked, you get like a lot of money because you get a lot of brand deals. You get to go travel because you get to do commercials, all of that stuff. Like all the women in the commercials that you see on like ESPN or whatever, those are actual Hooters waitresses that actually do work for the store. You know, they're slinging hot wings and cold beer just like the rest of us schlubs. And so also people come to your store and they'll tip you lots of money if you are like one of the corporate girls that gets picked. And of course, Holly is ecstatic. And she tells Hefner about the opportunity and she's super excited. And he just tells her no. He starts to pound his fist on his desk and scream at her and tells her that working at Hooters makes him jealous he starts crying and basically forces her to quit. So he has a 2-year-old meltdown. Like, he throws a temper tantrum, basically. Yeah. Just like,
that gives me the ick so bad. A 60-year-old man throwing a tantrum like that.
Yeah. Like,
that gives me the absolute ick.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And yeah, just picturing like this like scraggly old man like bang on his desk and then weep. It's just like the funniest mental image to me. So Holly views this as her last piece of independence being taken away. But in her mind, it'll work out in the end because she's thinking, okay, this whole like girlfriend mansion stay. It's only going to last a few more months, maybe a year, and then I'll be out. In the show Girls Next Door, the first season revolves around the plot of the girls getting a pictorial. And in the show, the narrative is that Hef doesn't allow his girlfriends to be in the magazines anymore. And I always assumed that this was common knowledge because in the show, it's made out to appear that way, that like, oh, if you're a girlfriend, you don't get to be in the magazine, and that's just how it is. Yeah. However, this was a decision that Hefner makes around 2001, and he just like doesn't tell anyone. Like, he doesn't tell any of the other women living in the house that, oh, you're actually not going to be in the magazine. And that's why I thought it was so weird because in the show, the 3 women are saying it like it's just a common fact that everybody knows. If you date Hefner, you are not going to be in the magazine. But like, no, actually, they did not know this information at all.
No, I thought that was the whole point.
Yeah. That's why they want to date him, is because they want to be in the magazine. They want the pictorial. They want to be a playmate. And they have a better chance of doing that if they date him. But apparently not, because he just like isn't telling them. And he knows that if he tells the women that being his girlfriend doesn't mean that you get to be a playmate, they'll just leave. Like, they're not going to stay there. There's no incentive. The incentive is like his withered dick, and there's just like not like, I guess he does know that's not incentive enough. So yeah, he constantly uses like the hope of being in the magazine as the carrot on the stick, and he uses it to just like manipulate the shit out of them. It's not funny, but like, just what the fuck, the situation, it's a ridiculous ass situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just like a taste of how manipulative this man is. And I may be a fan of Playboy, and I may have been at one time a fan of Hugh Hefner. In my notes, I wrote, he always seemed weird to me, but for a while there, I feel like he didn't seem weird to me. And I know I'm saying that with retrospect, but like, when I was a teenager, I loved the women of Playboy, and I was kind of just like ambivalent on Hugh Hefner, honestly. But like, it turns out that this man is just like straight evil. He's an evil cartoon character. Like, he is somehow a real man that exists in the world, but like, it's so awful.
Yep.
He notices like more cartoon villainy. He notices that the other women, it's just like, it's ridiculous. I hate him. He notices that the other women are starting to warm up to Holly, and he just like simply cannot have that. Number 1, Hugh Hefner is a messy bitch. He loves drama. And 2, this man is a capitalist. He cannot have his harem forming a fucking union out here. Like, oh my God, it really is Versailles. It really is Versailles. He's like, the people inside cannot get together and compare notes. And no. So he starts using Holly's like rule following as a way to just create drama and manipulate the other women. He would just absolutely tear down the other women. If Holly tried to join in on a conversation, he would scoff at her. He'd just be like, if anybody scoffs at me, you're just gonna throw punch, and then it's just the fucking worst. And oh my God, sorry, he does a lot of awful shit, and like, this is one of the worst ones for me, honestly. And I know we've had a sexual assaulting situation, but this is it's not up there. It's not, but it's pretty fucking terrible. During the movies,
messy. It's so messy for a 60-year-old man.
Yeah. So during the movies, he would lean over and explain the plot to Holly and like explain in detail the time periods. And it's just like, this is a woman who grew up on.
He is the epitome of like the patriot, like the gross, like white old man. Like,
and it's the fact that he's doing this on purpose. And he's treating Holly like she's nobody, absolutely nobody needs a movie explained to them. That's the point of them. I guess unless you're watching some like weird artistic film, maybe. But like, you're watching an old like classic movie. You're not. The plots are pretty fucking simple.
My pet peeve is, it's not people explaining to movies to me. I mean, I don't think I've ever had anybody do that because that's weird because you're watching it. But I hate people asking me questions during a movie. Like, who's that? Or like, what happened? Or what? That drives me insane.
Whenever I like show somebody a movie that they haven't seen but I have seen, I have noticed that they will like almost every time just like start asking questions. And I'm like, I'm kind of an idiot. And if I can understand this movie by sitting here and putting my eyeballs onto a screen for an hour and a half, you can too.
Like watch the movie. Watch the fucking movie.
Yeah, and I think that that's why I find this so fucking annoying that he does this to her, because he's doing it on purpose. Like, he knows that he's being an asshole. Yeah. It's super annoying.
Yeah.
Holly eventually becomes the main girlfriend a few months later when Tina Jordan moves out. The other girlfriends basically push her into it and encourage Hef to pick her because, like, they don't want to do the job. So there isn't any fanfare for her. He just asks her to move into his room, and she does until Tina decides that she's not going to move out anymore. Holly writes, "Being tossed back and forth like a useless rag doll by the man I had come to look for approval did a massive number on my self-esteem." Which, yeah, just like, once again, just like being treated like a commodity and not like a human being. She eventually moves into the suite, and she goes from having one of the smaller but still like pretty big rooms to being designated to a tiny corner of Hugh's room called the Vanity. And the Vanity is musty, crusty, dusty. And also, it's also where like literally every other main girlfriend has lived at this point in time. And now like Holly's just being assigned this like corner. It's also like she's being assigned a corner of this massive suite.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's basically like when I put my dog in his little kennel. It's like, yeah, that's what he's doing. It's like putting her in the dog kennel. And Holly suggests that maybe she should get like a writing desk and replace the crusty carpet with hardwood floors. And Hef takes the opportunity to make this whole to-do about the sacrifices he makes for her. And she writes, "Did he really just suggest that his love for me was reflected by his willingness to rip up decades-old carpet? Yes. Yes, he did." And like, yeah. Yeah.
That's so fucking sad. Oh my God. And I'm imagining, because like I've never seen the inside of the Playboy mansion, but I'm imagining that the suite of a fucking mansion is huge. It's got to be the size of like most people's houses, a sitting room, I'm assuming, and, you know, a bed area, a large bathroom, whatever, probably room for like a couch or two in there. So like the fact that you give her a tiny ass little corner, I wonder, and I thought about this when you mentioned it earlier about his wife and his kids. Like, how does he treat her? Like, that's his wife, and then I also wonder about the dynamic between them. Like, she's just okay with him like living in a separate house and like having like multiple other girlfriends, and
so I'm not entirely sure. I think they were like married before Playboy became Playboy, and then they were like separated, or they were married a little bit after like Playboy became big, and then they had kids together. So I think she's like technically his ex-wife, but he still takes care of her. Like, yeah. And I know he takes care of his children because I'm pretty sure his daughter is over the brand now. Like, she's the CEO of the company.
I do remember seeing that somewhere, like her making a speech or something about how much she loves her dad and how big like Playboy is and how he's just made a legacy and blah, 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 blah.
But also, like, I just know that carpet is crusty because I do remember just from people doing like tell-alls or like getting little like snippets of what the Playboy Mansion is like, because at the time it really was this big secret. I remember them saying that like the carpet, it still has shag carpeting. And this was like in the 2000s when people were talking about this. So that's carpet from the 60s and 70s. And you think about all the stuff that happened. And yeah, so I just being like, do you not see what all I do for you? I'm going to replace this crusty, dog pissed on, definitely cum stains on here carpet. Like, okay. And like at this point, I'm doing you a favor, sir.
Exactly. Like why with all that money had he not already replaced it? Like
Honestly, I think honestly, from Holly's perspective, he just seems kind of lazy. Like lazy in the sense that he's a hard worker and he cares about like Playboy and stuff a lot and he works hard for the magazine. But like he just seems kind of like lazy when it comes to other stuff. And he just seems very like set in his ways. Like he doesn't like change. Except for the women in his life. But I assume that he doesn't like really care. He's not really seeing a woman in his life. He's just seeing like a person that's just like filling a space.
Yeah.
In the corner of his huge suite. So as his main girlfriend, Hef immediately starts love bombing her. And it is like constant I love yous and you're my world, et cetera, et cetera. And Holly is like kind of buying into it, you know? This is her life and she's trying to make the best of it. She thinks to herself, maybe he really does care for our relationship and me, and maybe I can care for him and I can find things to love about him. And that is until a new girl shows up. And she looks just like Holly, and she is gunning to be the main girl. So Holly makes a choice. She knows that she's either got to step it up to keep her place, or she's gonna get the boot, right? And she decides to get a makeover. She cuts her hair to her shoulders. She splurges on makeup and wardrobe to give herself that classic Hollywood glamour look that she knows Hef loves. And now Hugh Hefner hates red lipstick. Why? Who fucking knows? He just doesn't like it. And throughout his life, he like has praised Marilyn Monroe and Betty Page, and he's always viewed them as the ultimate playmates. And I know Marilyn Monroe posed for Playboy. I think Betty Page did too. I'm not exactly sure. So Holly dons red lipstick to match, you know, the Hollywood glamour look. She's in the vanity waiting to surprise Hef, thinking, oh, he is just going to love it, right? He comes in and immediately starts yelling at her. What did you do? She says, I got a little makeover. I thought you'd like it. He tells her that he hates it. He hates red lipstick. She is hurt, but she refuses to like give him the satisfaction of hurting her. So she just sits there and takes his abuse. And he walks out of the vanity, comes back, and he realizes that like she's not having a reaction to his bullshit. So he's like, oh, I haven't done enough damage. He tells her, you look old, hard, and cheap, and just walks out. Yeah. And Holly's like 22 at this point.
Hugh and I would have had to throw hands, and it would have just been that.
I'm just saying, I know a 5'8" man who has never touched a Botox needle a day in his life or put a drop of moisture on that crusty skin is not telling Holly, who is such a beautiful woman, that she looks old, hard, and cheap. Like, sir, you lived in a bathrobe. Fuck off. Shit. Holly writes, the whole episode made me feel beyond ugly, as if all the beauty products and cosmetic surgery in the world couldn't make me look good. I felt like an idiot for even trying to be beautiful. Maybe I was just the homely girl who was lucky enough for Hef to allow into the mansion. That's certainly how his actions made me feel. Needless to say, from then on, I stuck religiously to corals, pinks, and nudes, never daring to try a red lipstick in front of him again. And Holly looks so good in red lipstick. Like, she really does have that classic Hollywood glamour look. And she looks good in red lipstick. I do not understand men who look at some of the hottest women on this fucking earth and go, she's just ugly. Like I saw a tweet the other day calling Margot Robbie ugly. And I was like, I could never. I enjoy hot women who I maybe would like to have sex with one day.
Yes, exactly. And I hate that for her that this is happening right in that pivotal time of your life, your early 20s, when like you're shaping yourself and your look and who you are and like your vibe. Like I hate that for her because I bet like it took her a long time to even try red lipstick again, even if she did. Like that's a fucking scar.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that is honestly just weirdly something I've been thinking about a lot in my life. I think it's because I work with a lot of like 18-year-olds and I love them, but they drive me fucking bonkers. And I think it's just because when you are like 18 to 27, I want to say, maybe a little younger, but you are like testing the boundaries of what you can and can't get away with in the world. You're like really discovering like who you want to be in the world, how you want to come off as people, how you want to be perceived. And you're really just like finding your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And Holly is this woman who idolizes Marilyn Monroe in like classic Hollywood, and then to tell her that she looks ugly in that style and that she looks old, hard, and cheap, it's just like, it's got to be fucking devastating. But I just think that we should bring Hugh Hefner back to life and then kill him again. We should throw tomatoes at him. We should bring back public shaming, and then we can like just put him back in the ground. Yeah, we'll put him back in the ground. So, okay. I know that it can be hard to understand and empathize how someone who looks like Holly could have her self-esteem torn down by a literal gremlin. And there is this like, but there is a part of me that gets it. And I am by no means like Playboy model beautiful or anything, but I know I'm not ugly. And that is my secret to life, is that just rest on your laurels of you're not ugly. Like, no one can say shit to you because guess what? You're not ugly. Like, what are you going to do? Call me ugly? Well, I'm not. So what about it?
Exactly.
And, yeah. And I mean, I went from being a really small town to where I wasn't one of the like popular hot girls. And I wasn't really like known for being attractive. I was definitely known for like being slutty, but not attractive. I wasn't like unpopular. I was friends with pretty much everyone. And as an 18-year-old, I moved away and I got a job at Hooters. And suddenly I was a hot girl. And it's really hard to explain. Yeah, but it's really hard to explain. But like suddenly your self-esteem is pinned on the approval of an outside source. Like it doesn't matter if you are sitting there going, well, I know I'm not ugly. The second somebody tells you that you're ugly, when you're in that mind frame, like you're like, well, fuck, I'm so ugly. And I remember one time I was waiting at a table at Hooters and this man said to me, this random ass man who, first of all, was like the size of a horse jockey. So like, why are you saying anything to me, 5'2"? He said to me, like, looked me in my fucking opticals and said, how do we get one of the hot ones? We don't want you. And I went to the back and I just like sobbed. Yeah, like, because this is, I think I was like 20. I had to be like 19 or 20 at the time. And it's just like,
the way I would have fucking roasted them.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not thinking about it like that, because your whole self-esteem is based on how attractive other people find you. And
I think that is like, I know this is going to sound stupid, like pretty girl problems, but I think that is a very huge thing with girls who are generally pretty, is like you feel like your whole like existence rests on how beautiful other people perceive you to be.
Yeah, and I think there's also like an opposite end of that too, where if you've never been perceived as beautiful or attractive, and then all of a sudden you are, then you're like, okay, well, people don't give a shit about how smart or funny I am. So I'm going to be this other thing because there's a part of you, especially as like a former teen girl, you want to be beautiful. You want that like male approval and male attention. You want like the ire of the women around you. And if you've never had that and then suddenly you get it, you're like, actually, this is fucking great. I don't know what all these people are fussing about. It's wonderful. So and especially like if somebody that I was like close with or dating told me I was ugly, I would have been like really wounded. But like it would have like really affected me more than like if Josh came in here and was like, you're ugly in all seriousness, I would be like, okay, well, Divorce me with the $60 in your bank account. Like, it would not bother me. I'd be like, good luck finding somebody better, bitch. But I just really wanted to, like, give that perspective because I know that it can be hard for us to, like, feel bad for the attractive people in this world. But, like, there is, like, a lot of stuff. I mean, everybody deals with bullshit. Everybody has low self-esteem, except for me, because I really do have, like, an unshakable self. Now I do. Back then I didn't, but, you know. So shortly after Holly's makeover, she meets Bridget, and they immediately become besties. Holly writes, looking back, I often wonder if having a friend like Bridget earlier would have saved my sanity. If I had had anyone else to turn to besides Hef, maybe I would have been able to recognize the situation for what it was instead of convincing myself to fall in love with him. Yeah. And by this time, there's still 7 girlfriends. Holly is one of them, so they're no longer the sloppy 7. And Bridget becomes one of the newer ones, so, you know, definitely not the sloppy 7. And it's basically Holly and Bridget against everyone else. Holly calls the other girlfriends the mean girls, and they really are, like, awful to her. She can't go to Hef because she knows that this will only cause more drama, and we know that this messy-ass man loves the drama, so she doesn't want to give him the satisfaction. She becomes a recluse and develops a stutter, which is something that can happen to you if you're under extreme, like, mental duress and you have no outlet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she develops a stutter, so she doesn't speak that much anymore. It's not funny. It's like breaking my heart that this is happening to her. It's awful. After meeting Bridget, she realizes that she's got to do something. Bridget is a full-time student, and she earns her master's in 2001. So this influences Holly to do something. Holly begins taking French lessons, acting classes, and real estate courses at UCLA. Which is good because now she's, like, finding hobbies. And I feel like women should have hobbies, you know? During this time, Holly is just straight up not doing well mentally. She's dealing with abuse from Hugh Hefner and also the mean girls. So she's got to come in front of, like, every aspect in her life. Her main goal was to become an actress, but this changes. She begins to crave fame for fame's sake. She realizes that Hef really loves celebrities, and if she wants his approval, then she needs to become famous. If she had fame, she would have some value outside of her looks. She writes, my life had become so backwards. I had once looked at a Playboy pictorial as a stepping stone to an acting career. But over the past few years, I had become so absorbed by Playboy that I started seeing fame as a stepping stone to a pictorial. I was completely coming undone. And it's just like, I'm like, Holly, hit him with your car.
That makes me feel so bad for her.
I know. The fact that she just, like, wants to be famous because she thinks that if she becomes famous or, like, has some level of celebrity that he will, like, find value in her outside of her looks. It just, like, further proves that he is not seeing these women for, like, the human beings that they are. He's just, like, seeing, like, a hot person in his vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here is where we get a fun new character. A woman we all know and love, especially if you grew up in the years 2000. If you were a teen in the formative years of 2005 to 2010. Paris Hilton. And Hugh Hefner loves Paris Hilton. The year is 2003. And yeah, at this time, Paris Hilton was the it girl. Like, she was literally everywhere.
I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, like The Simple Life, I feel like it was on at this time, and that was a huge hit. Oh my God, I love The Simple Life so much. Oh, but they actually, I think they both posted an Instagram post that they're rebooting The Simple Life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it made me happy
they both,
because,
like, adults now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're both adults now. And Paris has, like, her own, she has, like, a new reality TV show on Peacock. I haven't watched it yet, but she has a kid now. I think she has 2 kids now? 1 kid? I'm not exactly sure. In the book, Holly categorizes celebrities by if they spoke to the girlfriends or if they didn't speak to them. And she says that Paris always went out of her way to speak to her. So she gets put in the nice category. Paris is in talks about doing a Playboy pictorial. And one night while out at the clubs, Paris comes over and tells Hef that she can't do the shoot anymore because her mother, Kathy Hilton, will disinherit her. And fast forward, One Night in Paris is released. It's this huge scandal. Then shortly after that, The Simple Life premiered to 13 million viewers. Okay, so The Simple Life wasn't out in 2003, or it was around that time, but yeah, so... Oh, and I guess for any youngsters that don't know what One Night in Paris is, it was Paris's sex tape that was leaked, by the guy that she had sex with. And at the time, it was like, oh my God. At the time, it was on YouTube. Do you remember? I don't know if you ever like seeked it out. I definitely did. Yeah, back in the day when just like anything was on the internet, you could definitely watch A Night in Paris on YouTube. I would not recommend looking it up now because it is 1000% revenge porn. So
yeah.
And as somebody that watches a lot of reality TV, 13 million viewers are fucking insane. To put that into perspective, the highest viewed reality TV program in 2023, according to Forbes, is Gold Rush. That's like the History Channel show about like the gold miners out west. And that premiered to 1.93 million views per week is like what that show pulls. The highest viewed program in 2003, that's not reality TV show, was the Super Bowl. And the regular games during an NFL season see 10 to 15 million views on average. The Simple Life is pulling NFL numbers. Like, that's how big the show was. Yeah, so Holly kind of starts seeing the reality TV thing as a viable option for fame. Her and Bridget start getting cast in little bit parts. They give Snoop Dogg a tour of the mansion during the MTV Cribs special. Holly is the one who appears on the show Viva La Bam. Did you watch Viva La Bam?
I have seen it, like clips of it before, but I never like watched it, if that makes sense.
Oh my God. I loved Viva La Bam back in the day. I honestly do not remember Holly Madison being on there, but that is fun. I mean, I could see her being on, because they do go to the Playboy Mansion in one of the episodes, but yeah, when Cribs films there, she's the one that goes on the tour with Hef. She starts to like really put herself out there as Hugh Hefner's main girlfriend. And Fox greenlights a competition style show called Who Wants to Be a Playboy Centerfold? It ends up getting cut down from a series to a one-time special, and Holly takes the opportunity to try and learn how reality TV works. And I love a nosy bitch because I am a nosy bitch. And I love Holly for this. She eavesdrops on the Fox producers and Hef. Like, I just picture her like the cover of a Nancy Drew book where Nancy's like behind a wall and then there's like men in the background. Is like how I picture her. So that's how she like learns the magic that goes into editing a reality TV show, is just by like snooping on Hugh Hefner and the Fox executives. And I know that we know this now, in the year 2024, that reality TV is edited and pieced together. But in 2002, we like didn't really know that quite yet. We really hadn't peered behind the curtain.
It was real.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, we knew it was like kind of like not real, but we weren't thinking about like how edited it really was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hef sees this reality TV thing as a way for him to stay relevant because he like really cares about relevancy, and he sees it as a way for him to capture a younger audience. Like, the man is just truly obsessed with himself. I mean, go him, I guess. He wants to appear hip, which, like, Hugh Hefner is like 70 at this point, and he's like, I need to be hip. And I just can only see the meme of like, how do you do, fellow kids? Like, literally, that is Hugh Hefner at this point in time. And he agrees to film a Justin Timberlake music video, and it's like, great, true trash men in the same house.
Yeah.
So the video is apparently deemed too racy for the US because some of the women are topless in it, so it only ever aired internationally. Wow. You know what? The early 2000s, a time when you could look up Paris Hilton's sex tape on YouTube, but you could not watch a music video with nipples in it.
Nipples.
Yeah, it's just like crazy. It's like, oh my God, a woman's body with her like permission that she's showing us? Absolutely not. And it's like, oh, a woman's body where she definitely doesn't want us to see this? Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, it is 2024 and we have YouTube now, so we can watch the video if we so choose. The song is called Work It. And in it, Holly has the cropped hair from when she cut it. And she looks so cute in it. We would watch it, but she's very hard to spot. I really had to like freeze frame it for a second there. But you know, if you want to watch it, or if any listeners want to go watch it and try and find her, it's like a fun little Where's Waldo activity. Kill 5 minutes of your day. Yeah, but she looks cute with the cropped hair. Like, she just looks so adorable. So during the press for the video, MTV News comes in and interviews Hef. The reporter asks him if he listens to hip hop, and he doesn't know how to answer the question, which like makes me laugh. Honestly, I feel like Hugh Hefner is the type of person that if he was asked, do you like hip hop, he probably wanted to say something racist. You know? And it's like, he knows that he can't. Yeah, so he doesn't like know how to answer the questions. So Holly steps in because she can see that he is like flopping, and she feels as if the interviewer is like trying to make Hef look foolish. And she says, you listen to it at the clubs. And this like helps Hef regain his composure. And he's like, oh yeah, of course I love hip hop. So Holly goes upstairs to change after the shoot. And Hef comes into the bedroom and just like starts berating her. He tells her, you have no answers. You are to keep quiet during interviews. And it's like, bitch, she just saved you. Like, she just helped you.
She just kept you from looking like a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So she apologizes. And that's when it dawns on her that like Hef doesn't view women as human beings. He sees them as pets. Except Holly says that she's never seen him be mean to his pets. And when she like wrote that, when I read that in her book, I was like, damn.
So less than a pet.
Yeah, like Hugh Hefner views women less than the dogs. Yeah, and she says that despite his abuse, she had grown protective of him. But in that moment, she realized that he would have rather like looked like an idiot than get help from one of his quote unquote dumb blondes. It's just like, ugh, fuck this man. Like, I mean, I know we can say like fuck this man all day long, but like, I really want to point out that Hugh Hefner is not an enigma. Like, he's not an anomaly. There are lots of people out there like this that are nice to dogs and not nice to women, which is insane. Because there are so many nice, wonderful women on this earth. Holly has been the main girlfriend for 2 years at this point, and she gets the courage to ask Hef for a pictorial. She really wants one, and she sees it as a way out of like her current situation. He tells her that they already have too many blondes scheduled, which, okay, like who's all right? We already have too many blondes, whatever. And that Holly doesn't have
90% of these girls are blondes.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Like if you're picturing a Playboy model, it's like she's a blonde woman in my head, at least. I always picture Pamela Anderson because she has like a very iconic Playboy photo shoot. But yeah, just like picture a Pam Am lookalike. He also tells her that Holly doesn't have quote unquote the look, and that she doesn't photograph well. Yeah, and she's very photogenic. Yeah. Honestly, what I think he's trying to do is like make her feel so ugly that she won't ask for another pictorial. Like she won't ask him again. Yeah. So Hef does tell her that she could do a shoot for the website, and Holly knows that he's just offering this to make her feel like she's getting something. The cyber girls are kind of known as the ones who aren't good enough in the magazine, but Holly is like, whatever, you know, she'll take it. She wants the pictorial. And this bastard hires the worst photographer for her. Like, he doesn't hire he's not bringing in the top brass. For his main girlfriend that has been with him for 2 years. And during the shoot, Holly is really uncomfortable. She knows that the poses and stuff aren't really Playboy standard. She feels too exposed, and the photographer is telling her that it's fine. The pictures come out for approval, and Holly hates them. And she eventually just asks Hef to scrap the whole thing. She's like, I don't like any of these. I just don't want to do this. And I feel like that was his plan the whole time. His Scooby-Doo villain plan. This was it. So in 2004, Holly and Bridget are still facing the same abuse from the mean girls. And some of the girls have been kicked out of the mansion for selling invites to the parties. Others have left. So there's like a few vacancies open. Hef keeps a wooden box on his nightstand of Polaroids of all the women who have ever visited the mansion, which is so weird to me. And inside that box, there are categories, A, B, and C. A is for the women that Hugh likes, and these are like the elites. B is for the girls who are good enough for parties, and C is the girls that were invited only if they were desperate. They're the fucking, they're the C squad.
Bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. Holly and Bridget formulate a plan. They want the mean girls out, and they want another person on their side. Hugh is planning the Painted Ladies party, and he has a few girls in the A category picked out. He ends up choosing 3 women, one of which is Kendra Wilkinson. Hugh takes a liking to her. Bridget and Holly think that she's nice, so they encourage Hugh to let Kendra move in, which of course is what happens. And Kendra gets the mean girls kicked out by just like snitching. She just snitches them out to Hef. And this is how the 3 of them become friends, and like how they become the 3 main girlfriends. Once Kendra is in the picture, Hef starts to use her to manipulate Bridget and Holly. So remember, Bridget and Holly are besties, and Hef really doesn't like that. He can't have unions in this organization. Absolutely not. Hef immediately starts buying Kendra literally everything she wants. Holly asks if she can use one of the smaller bedrooms now that the mansion is like pretty empty and there's only 3 girlfriends. And Hef screams at her. And it's like, absolutely not. He's like, I gave you this tiny corner of my room.
What more could you want?
What more could you want? Meanwhile, Kendra has the biggest room in the house. So Holly can't even have the smallest extra bedroom, but like Kendra gets the biggest one, which is just okay. One day, the 3 of them are chilling by the pool, and Hef walks up and tells Kendra that she's getting a pictorial, which is this huge deal. Yeah, like it's just this massive deal. And it's a huge deal to Holly and Bridget because they've been busting their asses. And here's Hef just giving Kendra one. They all go out for a club night, and they're all waiting on Kendra, who is late. And, they have very strict, like, schedules and curfews and stuff. She comes down wearing, you'll never guess, Hannah, you'll never guess. She comes down wearing red lipstick.
Oh, my God.
And what do you think Hugh Hefner does?
He liked it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Holly is, like, bracing herself. Like, she is fucking tense, like, ready for the impact. And Hugh says, wow, Kendra, that red lipstick looks wonderful on you. You look like you just stepped out of a 1940s movie. This is the point. Like, this is the part where I would have, like, actually snapped. Like, Holly, you are a stronger woman than me. Because I would have, like, taken my nails and ripped this man's fucking throat out.
Fuck him, yo. Fuck him.
In my notes, I wrote, holy fuck, this man is evil. Because, yeah. So Holly and Bridget, despite all of this like Hugh messy bitch nonsense going on, really try to befriend Kendra, and she just like kind of hates them. And I want to take this moment to make like a side note. Kendra is 19 when she moves into the mansion, and I know that all of the women are very young when this stuff is happening, but like 19 is insane to me. She has also struggled with drug addiction prior to the mansion. And it's like, she's so young and she struggled with drug addiction before then. So I guess like that kind of gives you like a little bit of a glimpse into her background prior to the mansion. So I don't want to like give her too much flack for being like mean to Holly and Bridget, or like maybe not wanting to be friends with them, because she's a fucking child. Like I understand that she's like legally an adult, but like we were all 19 at one point in time, and like you're a fucking kid at that point.
Yeah, you're still a kid.
Yeah. And it also just like helps set this next scene. One night they're all out on a club night. Holly and Bridget are seated next to Hef, and Kendra is on this balcony in front of them dancing. I guess they're like in a VIP area. And she accidentally kicks a candle and causes hot wax to fall onto Holly's leg. Holly jumps up and, of course, starts having this like big reaction to this like hot thing that's just suddenly flung onto her bare leg. And Kendra just laughs in her face about it. Hef asks Holly what's wrong, and she tells him, and he says that she probably didn't mean it. So Holly's like already irritated, and this like literal child that's just like throwing shit on, even if, I mean, she knows it's an accident, but it's like, you just still apologize for that. It's all Holly really wanted.
Yeah, you still apologize.
Yeah. So as they're leaving the club, Kendra is behind Holly, and she starts screaming at her, "Move, bitch, get out the way." And Holly is just like fucking fed up at this point. So she screams back at Kendra, tells her to shut up, that she spilled hot wax on her. She didn't apologize. And then she calls her a bitch and yells, "Fuck you," to Kendra. Kendra stops smiling at this point, and she tries to play it off as like, "Oh, bro, it's a joke. It's from a song." And they all get back into the limo. And Hef tells Kendra that she should apologize to Holly. And this is when all hell just like breaks loose. Kendra starts having a breakdown and says that they're her family and she'd have their backs no matter what. She's like hysterically crying. Holly writes, "The whole display was shocking and kind of sad. It simply wasn't normal. It seemed Kendra, finally finding herself on Hef's bad side, broke down and retreated into a drunken fit. A woman who allows herself to enter into a situation like the one we were in must struggle with personal demons. I know I did. I learned to pick my battles and appreciate that she was just as damaged as the rest of us. She just had a different way of showing it." Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't really like. I know Kendra from not from the show, but from being a playmate, and I don't really know her that well. But I just feel like Holly is giving Kendra so much grace for being young, and she's not giving herself enough grace. Like she's a child. She's she's having this breakdown. She had a drug addiction. Da da da. But she's not giving herself, she might not have displays like Kendra did, you know what I mean? Which at 19, that fucking makes sense that when you have a breakdown, it happens like that. I mean, you're a kid, you're essentially throwing a tantrum. And who knows if she has any other mental illnesses or whatever have you. But she doesn't give herself enough grace either. She's so focused on staying composed. And I applaud her for that. Don't get me wrong. I applaud her for that because shit, a bitch wish she could do that. But she's so focused on staying composed and being this perfect, like prim and proper. She doesn't give herself enough grace. Not at all.
Yeah, honestly, you picked up on something that I did not pick up on while reading this, is that, yeah, she doesn't excuse herself the way that she excuses other. And I think that that's like an interesting perspective and insight into like who she is as a person. And I really don't think Holly like intended to come off that way, but it is definitely like how she comes off, which is a good thing, that she does have empathy and compassion for other people. But then when it comes to herself, she's like, or at this time in her life, she's like, well, I'm just not good enough. Instead of being like, well, I also am like kind of damaged. And I think her seeing Kendra in this moment is like the realization where she's like, oh, well, she's just as damaged as me. She just like doesn't have the composure that I have, And as like a fan of the show, Kendra was always my least favorite. She ended up getting a spinoff when she marries. She marries like an NBA player, I think, and they have a show together for a few years. But she was the wild one who was ditzy. And once you put it into perspective that she's 19 years old, who has struggled with a drug addiction, and she gets thrown into this world. It like really does make me see her differently, because on the show I always found her so fucking annoying because she would just say like the dumbest shit. She was literally like the girl that says the dumb things just to like have the men around her being like, correct her, you know, like for attention.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And once I realized that she was 19, I was like, oh, she's 19. That's why she was like kind of annoying and behaving this way.
Yeah.
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 So E decides that they want to do, the E Network decides that they want to do an unscripted show about the mansion. They're trying to come up with ideas, and they decide to do some test interviews with the 3 ladies to see if like anything's there. During Holly's test interview, she's answering all the usual questions with her scripted answers, and suddenly the producer asks her, "When did you first realize you were beautiful?" And Holly is caught off guard by this question because she doesn't know how to answer. She blurts out, I never did discover I was beautiful. I made myself beautiful." She writes that the answer alluded to 3 things. 1, that she had been conditioned to believe she wasn't beautiful. 2, that she had used plastic surgery to make herself beautiful, which she hadn't. She talks about getting the boob job, and I think she does talk about like getting a nose job, but she doesn't talk about any other procedures that she's had. So like she didn't really, she's only had the nose job and the boob job. She may have had more now. Who cares? I don't care. Get your little snips. I don't care.
Exactly.
And 3, that there was a little more going on in her head that more than most people would assume. And she was in on the joke, that she knows that she's in this like kooky world. She's aware of it. And the producer later tells her that her answer to this question is what prompted them to create Girls Next Door. And that is what we'll call part 1. Do you have any final thoughts on Holly?
Not really, but I love this, honestly, because I honestly never watched reality. I still don't want. I think the only reality TV show I've ever watched is Bad Girls Club, and I was like obsessed with it. But maybe a little America's Next Top Model, but I never really got hard into reality TV, and it makes me want to watch this just to kind of like see her and relate to her, because you don't. Especially not at that age, the age that you were watching that TV show, you don't at that age think to yourself that these women have issues like this. You don't think that they struggle with mental illness, suicidal ideation, having a stutter because they're so sheltered and ridiculed, abuse, sexual abuse. Like, you don't think that they suffer with things like that. You think that it's all peachy. And I know at least I did. So I love when people like that do these sort of like autobiographies where they open up that kind of world and really let you into like Hollywood. Because I know I wanted to be famous. I mean, I think most girls, young girls did. I wanted to be famous growing up. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be on stage. And now in 2024, as a 32-year-old, I know that it's not fucking glamorous at all. A lot of these women suffer, sexual abuse and drug addiction, and it's awful. So I really like her insight. It's very deep, which it sucks to say, but I do kind of fall into the dumb blonde stereotype where I'm like, oh, they probably don't have a lot of thoughts behind those eyes, which sucks. But she very much is very like articulate, and but you can tell she puts a lot of thought behind her words.
Yeah, and honestly, that is like this is one of my favorite books, if not the favorite book that I've read for this show, because it is like so open and it is very beautifully written. But I mean, just the way that you can just tell this is a woman who very much knows herself. And given that she's writing about this time in her life with the retrospection and like processing of everything that she went through during her time at the mansion, it's just like so refreshing to be like, wow, this woman has like everything and is so lonely. And like, this is what she was going through. And this is like what women go through every day. On a bigger scale, but it's like a prison's still a prison. It doesn't matter if it has, gold bars.
Exactly. And it's so deep to think. I'm sure she would love to hear this if she could, like where you say this is a woman who really knows herself, because I'm sure at that time she really didn't feel like she did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for her to come so far and like be in this place now is like, it's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. So next time we see each other, we'll be doing part 2, which will be the rest of the book. It'll be about her time during Girls Next Door and her life post Mansion. And the book leads up to Hugh Hefner's death. So she talks about like dealing with that. And we'll touch up on kind of what she's doing now. She has some other books that she wrote after this one that I haven't read, but I highly recommend this one. And I hope everyone will tune in. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll see you guys again. We won't see you. We'll be whispering sweet nothings into your ear next time. Bye.
Bye.
You're Literally On is hosted and produced by yours truly, Dacey O'Kelly. Our editor and resident audio wizard is Dustin Goddard. Thank you so much for your support. Please follow the pod wherever you get your podcast and feel free to rate and review. As always, support your local bookstore and remember to always be kind. Bye.